welcome back to my channel. So it is finally time for the full flip through of my 6 bullet journal. You'll notice that I've already done the archiving stickers on the front and the sides, and I did use the copper stickers that came with this particular journal just so they would match. So I should probably mention, I apologize in advance. My voice is still a little bit croaky. It's not getting better. I've had to go to work and all that kind of stuff, but it is much better than it was, so hopefully you guys will still be able to understand me. So let's dive in. Alright, so I've got my inside cover here. Since I am finished with this bullet journal, I have taken off all of the sticky notes that were in here, so now it's just nice and clean. And I've got my index. So I am definitely happy that I split the index, each page of the index, in half when I first set up this bullet journal, because I ended up using essentially 3 full columns. So I would have had this 4th column left, but if I hadn't done it, I would not have had enough room to index everything. So if you have this new setup where it's just the spread of an index and not the full 3 pages, consider splitting it in half so that you have enough room to actually index everything. So I do have on the left side of each of my monthlies the color that I used. I also have my full key of the colors that I had on the sides, and I have all of my markings on the sides of my pages right there. Then I have my year at a glance and my CALENDEX. So there's like 1 or 2 things on this section that I didn't actually cross off because I ended up migrating to a new CALENDEX. You'll see that I have page threading down here. I have page 122. When I actually migrated to the new one, even if something wasn't completed, I just kind of left it and dealt with it in the new section so that I didn't have to worry about it. Then I have my savings goals and my expenses, and I've just covered this up because it's, you know, my personal information, and you guys have seen the layout of this finance page in a bunch of other journals, so you guys know what it looks like under there. I have my wish list waiting for an espresso, so I had one thing that ended up getting migrated, and what I do when I'm migrating into a new bullet journal is I will check off the bottom of the page. So for example, on the wish list, I didn't actually cross off things or migrate things when I was done. I just took all the information. Once I had moved everything I wanted into the new place, I just checked it off at the bottom so that I didn't have to go through and do everything by hand up here. I have my YouTube editorial calendar for January through June. You'll notice March and April were a little light because I was doing my master's. I have my YouTube tracker and my Instagram tracker. So this line delineates more YouTube stuff because I actually needed more space. I have my 101 and 1001 focus, and I actually forgot to check off the bottom here, but I only checked off the things that I actually did, and I didn't bother migrating them, even though these tasks that haven't been done I did deal with and are most likely in my new bullet journal, or I just, you know, kind of set it back to the master list and I'll get to it later kind of thing, but I don't actually go through and migrate, you know, draw the arrow to migrate everything on this page. I've got my working towards section over here. Once again, I did deal with this, I just didn't actually remember to check it off. I have library loans and K-dramas. My transportation tracker for university, because we did carpool, so I had to keep track of who owed what for the drivers. And actually it was a good thing that I am super organized and did this, because I was the only one who actually thought to do it. So yeah, this was definitely a good, very handy resource for me to have. My CALENDEX carryovers, so things that I needed from when I was migrating into this bullet journal for my last that I needed to set up on the CALENDEX. I just went ahead and did one big page, so I just have a bunch of different CALENDEX items on here. Then we get into January. So January was black and copper. You'll notice a theme throughout. A lot of my setups stay the same. You'll notice this is an older one, so I do have memories on here still. My January goals, reading, tracking, all of that is pretty much the same. And this was my old style of weekly, so this was the 1-page weekly where I have my days of the week, so Monday through Sunday, tasks, and then the upcoming week. And I had not yet started doing the ALISTAIR method for my tasks, which I will do soon. And then I just have dailies over here. And a lot of times with this, because I would have extra, either a partial page or a full page, I would either do a quote or a doodle or what have you. Then, oh, I guess I don't remember why I switched over, but I switched back into doing my full 2-page weekly. So I've got Monday through Sunday in the center, tasks, upcoming week. This is university work, so things I have to prepare for school and for work, and home. And then my little mini monthly with a highlighted week that we're on, and more dailies. And you'll notice here was one that I just did a little thing. I actually washed this with a little bit of a rose gold metallic watercolor, but it's really hard to see on camera. So, continuing with that, a little doodle. So I like this setup with the 2-page weekly for a really long time. It was pretty clear and it was, you know, nice and well laid out, and I liked having my dailies on here. That worked well for a while. I have my language days. So this was a project I was going to try and do where I would try and just myself at home do certain activities in a particular language on a given day. So I had, you know, what languages I want to work on, what are the things that I can do, some ideas and rules, and then specific ideas for, you know, things to read, things to watch for different languages. Unfortunately, it was just not really sustainable, so I left the spread as is, but I actually never really did anything with it. This eventually evolved into my language log, which I have been using and you guys have seen before. So this one, instead of doing a doodle or lettering, I just did an extra collection. So a lot of times I would save these pages and do extra collections. Then February, so this was my pink and gray month. So pretty similar. So this was when I still did Happy Mail, upcoming month, tasks, and emails on this section. And I think I did that for January as well. And then I had memories and goals on the next spread, followed by my reading and tracking over here. So, and this was the first month that I started doing the language log. So you can see shortly after those language days, I decided to actually do kind of this way, and then this in turn translated into a separate language journal that I keep my log in. So still with the similar, and you'll notice that I keep kind of the color scheme for my weeklies. I usually have 2 colors per month, even though one is the color that I choose to do on the sides here, and I just keep with a similar scheme so that as I'm flipping through, I kind of know which month this section of weeklies and dailies goes with. And you'll see I have another little CALENDEX item down there, collection, best K-drama lines. So pretty similar. My kind of tongue-in-cheek list of homework and things I had to do for university. Oh, and this was actually a little mini travel spread right up here. It was just a day trip and I just needed to have my train times and what I wanted to bring, but then I went ahead and finished out the dailies for that week. Okay, so and this was one where in February I decided to also do purple, because why not? I was just getting bored with the pink combination that I had. So I did purple and then green on here. I have another partial Paris travel spread with more dailies, another little collection of creative projects I wanted to work on. And there you go. I have a bunch of CALENDEX things. So this was one that I finished with the week, and I set up a spread for things that I need to get done for work, for university, and for personal, and realized I had this half page left that I didn't know what to do with. So once I realized I needed to do more CALENDEX stuff, I just used this as another CALENDEX carryover type spread so that I could make use of that space. And you'll notice here I did check off at the bottom of this page once I was actually done with everything I needed or wanted to do on this spread. Then this was March. So March was my minimalist month, which I really, really enjoyed. So I actually did use gray on the side, but it was basically just kind of black and white. So just a normal pen. So super minimal, but my setup is actually the same. The only thing that wasn't super minimal were my memories. And then my goals, I did do gray because it was too hard for me to check off if I were to do it in, you know, a black swatch of color. Reading and tracking, and this was, I did a review of the first quarter, and I had kind of a little mental like fart when I was doing it, so I wrote myself a note so I'd remember sort of how I calculated this. And then I switched back to doing the 1-page weekly because I realized I had so much information on that 2-page weekly, but I was having to migrate so much because I just didn't have time to do everything. So I really went and I tried to focus on putting the big things on the monthly and then just moving stuff to the weekly as the things I thought I could actually get done that weekly, that week, and I decided that it was going to make more sense for me to just do a 1-page weekly so I wouldn't be tempted to fill in all of the space. I also messed up. It was actually week 9, not week 8. Travel spread. 1-page weekly. So this was the week that I started doing the ALISTAIR method. So with the ALISTAIR method, you have one column, but you have one list of tasks, but you have different columns where you can put the dot or the bullet so that you know which category it goes to. So mine were general tasks, school, like university, and work. And so I know wherever I put the dot in the first 3 lines has to do with what the category was. And so that allowed me to have one section of tasks, but to have them still be kind of organized. Then I had another collection, more dailies, and another collection. So this on the books was just stuff I need to work on kind of thing. And again, with dailies, weeklies, all of that kind of stuff. So you'll notice in this one, even with the minimal, I did do gray at some point, but it was pretty straightforward. Then I had a brain dump, and I think I had just gotten this ink, the Apache Sunset, so I just wanted to use it to do a brain dump. And once again, I check off at the bottom when I finish with it. Oops. So more weeklies and dailies, CALENDEX item, collections. So I decided at this point that I was going to move Happy Mail and emails because I realized that I was migrating almost the entire list every single month because I just didn't have time during this section of the year to actually get stuff done. So I just moved it over here, and then I have my April set up. So this was like right near the end of my master's. I didn't even bother with a real quote. I was just like, just get it done. And this was when I changed up my monthly. So I have my current month, upcoming month, goals. So I no longer have Happy Mail and emails on this list. It's a separate spread by itself. And then I have reading and tracking, and you'll notice this was the month that I only read 2 books, and I just made a little comment about how terrible it is to not have time to read. Then I have my updated CALENDEX. So I have a little 3-month CALENDEX and a 3-month future log, and then another CALENDEX carryover because I got so many more months in this journal than I ever have before that I actually needed a new one. I ran out of room and I needed a new CALENDEX, so I just did that. Then diving right into dailies and weeklies, collections. This is a pretty standard where I got to the point where I was 1-page weekly, 2 pages for dailies, and then a collection, and then on to the next week. And I carried on with that for a while. Holiday tasks, once again. So, and this one I didn't have a collection I needed, so I just did a little quote. I think I've even done this. I think I did this earlier. I think I did this one again in March. This is something that shows up pretty frequently in my bullet journal whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed. Then I decided to start doing even my monthly sections in Korean. So you'll have noticed that I did my weeklies in Korean pretty much throughout this entire bullet journal, but my monthlies were still in English for the most part. So this was the first month that I decided to do the quote and my intro page, as well as all of my month level collections in Korean. It is still the same setup where I have the current month, upcoming month, and goals. It's just that it's in a different language. So then I've got reading and tracking. And I've kept ALISTAIR method on my weekly for my tasks and dailies and a collection. So this was another trip, a trip planning. So I was actually going to be in Paris for the week. So I have weather, transportation, I have info on our Airbnb and a packing list. And then this is when I was actually in Paris. So I did a little bit of journaling for what we did during the day. Since I didn't have, for some of them, I didn't have as many tasks. And this was near the end of my master's, so this was me really hoping that I was going to actually pass my master's. Collections. So ran out of space on my library loans, need to have a new one there. I had an updated finance spread because, like I said, I had more months in this than I ever have before, so I ran out of room on my first one. I needed another one. An updated YouTube spread. So this was the month that I was just running out of space for the stuff I had at the beginning of my bullet journal because I was in here for more months than I had anticipated. And this was where I decided to do the daily, weekly hybrid. So everything is all on one page. I have my days of the week here, so Monday through Friday, Saturday and Sunday. I have, this was my focus section, upcoming week, tasks, still with the ALISTAIR method, and weekly language tracker. And then I would put collections as needed in between, and that was the end of May, so now we're into June. Once again, I did it in Korean. Same setup as before, current month, upcoming month, and goals, goals, focus section, books and tracking. And this was where I really I started doing this from now on. I did end up switching a couple of things, so for a while, it sort of stayed the same, and then I decided to switch my upcoming month and my focus section because I didn't have as much, or not my upcoming month, my upcoming week. I didn't have as much stuff going on in the upcoming week section, so I decided it didn't need a big box, so I just gave it a box up here, and then I have my focus section, so it was really front and center. And that pretty much goes. This was my watercolor month, so July. So all of my monthly setups were in watercolor. Pretty standard setup otherwise, and even my weeklies I did in watercolor. This was a lot of fun, but it definitely took a while to dry, so it's not something that I would ever do when I'm super busy. This was in the summer, so I had more time. The sections, however, are all the same. Little collection, similar sections there. So you'll notice that I am including more and more stickers on my spreads just to kind of liven it up. Plus, I've been getting the STICKII Club pack for a couple of months, and I really wanted to be able to use more of the stickers. So just to kind of change things up, spice it up a little bit. Okay, so those. Now, at the end of July, I actually visited family in the US, so I had my travel information, things I needed to do and get before I left, and then my packing list. And then I also have my pre-trip and post-trip brain dumps. So I actually did an entire video on this to kind of explain how I do setups for longer trips. But these are the things that I want or need to get done before I leave. And then these are the things that when I'm out of town, or if I already know, these are the things that I know are top of my to-do list when I get back. Then I have August. So I decided to do August in Italian just to kind of change things up. And the setup is actually the same, so I have current month, upcoming month, and goals, reading, and tracking. So this was the first month that I decided to stop tracking my my savings goals because I kind of have that pretty well in hand. So I decided to go back to tracking my steps. So I used to actually track steps on my tracker, and I stopped for a number of months because I just realized I wasn't doing anything with that information. But I've been really trying to be a little bit more active because I have a tendency to be very sedentary. I love to read, I bullet journal, it's all very sedentary activities. So I decided that instead of just tracking how many steps I do, I wanted to actually see visually what that looked like. So I did a graph on the side here, and then I had more library loans and K-dramas. So once the summer hit, I ended up reading more, so I needed another library loan section. And I have my same style of daily weekly hybrid. So this was while I was in the US. You'll notice that my weekly did not get used very much. I even did a shortened, sort of a truncated language tracker for that week as well because I wasn't doing as many things. And then, see, I actually came back to France basically here, and you'll see my dailies got more full. And then this was kind of mid to end August was when I decided I needed a break from my language stuff. I had been keeping up like a 2.5 month streak on doing a certain number of tasks every single day, and I was just getting burned out. So I had already set up my weekly, and so I decided to not actually set up the tracker, and I said, it's okay to take a break, so I just didn't even use that. But the rest of this has all stayed pretty much the same. So my days of the week, my tasks, and this I've actually stopped doing the ALISTAIR because I'm no longer in university, so and especially since this was still the summer, I didn't have anything to really do. A lot of times what I will do is like home and general tasks and like social media tasks, but it's not something that I actually label. I just kind of, as I'm writing stuff down, separate them out that way. So that keeps going, and this was, again, I had already set up this weekly and I just didn't even bother to write anything in there. And this was when I got sick. So I'm actually filming this on September 12th, and I've basically been sick since the 22nd of August, so things are going well. So I'm actually feeling a lot better, it's just that my voice is still not quite back to normal. Anyway, so this, at the end of the month, I decided to start really tracking my skincare and just seeing what I actually did every month. So this last week is actually in September, which is why you see the 26th is the last, you know, the last of the dailies and weeklies that I have in this journal, because at the end of the week was all of our back to school stuff for teachers. So this entire section, I was still using this bullet journal, but I was actually updating my weekly and my dailies in the new bullet journal. So you'll notice here a big section where I was sick. I didn't do a lot of stuff in the evening, but this was really good. It just kind of started giving me some really good information. I'm still doing it in September, so I'm hoping to kind of hone in on the things that I really like as part of the routine, things that maybe I don't need to do or don't need to do as often. We'll kind of see. So this has been a really helpful spread. Then I had, at the end, while I was kind of straddling two bullet journals, I wanted to make sure I didn't forget to migrate or set up things in my new bullet journal or move them from the old to the new. So I have a migration brain dump and a setup brain dump. So these are all the things that are in this journal that need to go in the new one, and these were all the things that I had set up, the like bare minimum of the spread, and I need to finish setting it up in here. I had a new K-drama tracker. I have all of my currently inked fountain pens. I did a pen test for the Tombow Twintone set I got the pastel set. This is actually supposed to be violet and this is lavender. However, I jumped the gun and I just wrote in lavender twice accidentally. Then I have my migration prep, which if you guys watch my migration video, you guys have seen was how I set up my kind of organized my thoughts and my ideas for my new bullet journal. I also had my September setup. This was just a random page that I had done. I think I'd actually done this as a pen test for some pens that I got, and so I ended up just testing out things for my watercolor month and all that kind of fun stuff. I have lists of things that, so this was originally going to be language day tracking, but it ended up being a list of movies in Korean, movies in other languages, and series in other languages that I wanted to watch. You'll notice that I have not watched any of them. However, I have migrated this list to a different place. I had a tracker for Skillshare classes I wanted to do. I still would like to work on this, I just haven't had time. I have my Talk to Me in Korean tracker. At this point, so right around here, was when I moved all of my language trackers into my language journal. So I have done more lessons than this, I just haven't actually kept track of them in here. It's in my other journal. And I have my Next Up K-drama tracker, which these I actually did do arrows to migrate as I was moving it to a different notebook, because it was just too many for me to keep track of, you know, where I was. It was just easier for me to cross things off as I went along. And yeah, that is the end. Let's see, do I have anything in my back pocket here? So I have a couple things back here. I have my color code like cheat sheet for this journal. So I just have the color, what the label is, and what number Tombow it actually is, just in case I ever forgot. I have, this is a list of gray inks that I've tried because I really like gray ink. So lists of gray inks that I've tried and my, you know, favorites. I've actually since bought the Fused Hyogun because I love that one so much. I have a business card for the one and only gluten-free restaurant that is in my town. And this was something I sent, oh, I think I had to return something to Amazon, and so I just held on to that. I don't think I even need it anymore. I just kind of threw it in the back here and I just haven't taken it out. So that is my 6th bullet journal. I cannot believe that I got, what, like 8 months in here. Given that I got 8 months in this journal, I'm kind of curious to see if I continue on that way and if I get essentially the entire school year in my 7th bullet journal. We shall see. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I feel like I've been getting closer and closer to finding what really works. And honestly, what works at one point doesn't necessarily always work at another point. So you guys will notice that I've drastically changed. I no longer do dailies. I do a daily weekly hybrid. And at some point I will probably end up switching back and doing dailies again. We'll just see. But for now, you know, this is working. This setup is working as As it is, I don't really feel the need to tweak it very much right now, but it's really cool to go back and, you know, look through this evolution, because this is, you know, almost, what is this, like 2/3 of a year of my life that you can see sort of the evolution of how I was planning at the time. So that is all I have for you guys today. I know this is kind of a long flip through. I know there are going to be some people who wish I would just do a quick flip through and not talk, but that's just not really my style. So for those of you who do like the long chatty videos, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you guys in my next video. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them down below. If you like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and or subscribing to my channel, and I will see you guys in future videos. Bye!